Well, joining me now is Nikki Mattocks, who you saw in Kathy's story, and Grace Barrett from the campaign group Esteem team. Thanks for joining us both. Nikki, first of all, you started to have problems quite young, didn't you? About 6 or so, weren't you?
Yeah, when I was 6, because of bullying and some trauma I experienced, that was when I first wanted to. I went downstairs and I told my mum, look, I just don't want to be here anymore. And then it got worse and worse until I was at crisis point.
And then as a teenager, you started to self-harm as well, didn't you?
Yeah, when I was 14, I experienced abuse and traumatic experiences, and then I started to self-harm every day. I attempted suicide so many times. I was just in a really, really dark place, yeah. Where
did you get the help from? I mean, where does a teenager go for that?
Well, my family were quite supportive, but they didn't really know what to do. I went through my school, went through my GP, and after about 6 months, I started seeing CAMS. And I had to go to A&E quite a few times when I was in a really bad place.
And it sounds it was really difficult. I mean, going from child to adult mental health care services, what is that like now?
It wasn't really the age that was different for me, it was the area move. Because I started university, because I moved to a different area, it was more of I noticed really the postcode lottery, not really as much the age difference.
Grace, you do this in the self-esteem team, yeah. You go into schools and talk to these kind of people. What are the pressures that young people face, do you think?
I think the pressures are far and wide and quite vast at the moment for young people. So at Self-Esteem Team, we talk to all teenagers because we believe everybody has a mental health. At the moment, people talk about mental health only when there's a problem. We all have a mental health like we have a physical health. And so we need to be thinking like that. And that's what we're talking to teenagers about. They live in a world where they're, constantly on the internet, constantly online, so they're seeing pressures from the outside, and they're also living in a very competitive world in terms of schooling and getting a job and a career. They're hyper aware of how difficult that's going to be for them to sustain themselves. And so I think that you combine those two things and you've got kind of social pressures and academic pressures all mounting up on top of teenagers, and that's really difficult.
It sounds like it's even harder for teenagers now than it was a generation ago. It has to be, doesn't it?
I think so. I think teens now live in a world where they don't have a blueprint for how to do life. as silly as that sounds, the generation that went before them didn't live through the internet and through social media. So they're the guinea pigs, and so they don't have anyone to turn to say, how do I handle this? And I think that that's really difficult for teens of today as opposed to teens a few generations ago.
Now, Nikki, you're doing really well at the moment, aren't you? You met the Duchess of Cambridge, didn't you, a while back?
Yeah.
She's spoken before about her own problems and
yeah.
challenges and that kind of thing. What was it like to meet them?
It was really amazing. It was the first time I'd spoken so publicly about the fact that I hear voices, and they were so, so lovely. They was really understanding, and they really do care about it. So it was really nice for them to come along and actually listen to what I had to say.
And she is listening there with Prince William as well. I guess the message is to young people, get the help now, and then that will help you in later life, won't it?
Yeah, and that people deserve the help, so they should definitely go for it.
And in terms of the government is investing in this, it's being talked about more and more, isn't it? But do you think enough's being done?
I think we're starting to become aware that we can't achieve greatness without good mental health. Nobody can. And so the government are becoming aware that if they want great grades and they want people from our country to be pioneers for the future, then they have to take mental health seriously. There's always more that can be done, though. And I think throwing money at the problem is, only half the battle, if that. So there needs to be some really serious strategy about how that's handled.